Gotcha. We're talking about two topics that they tell you not to talk about: finances and politics. How is the Black church holding up financially? We're told we're in a financial boom. We'll let you two cover that one since you get to see it every week
every
here.
Sunday.
Every Monday.
Well, we announce that every
or maybe Sunday at the end.
Sunday.
You know, how's it going financially, Sebastian?
It's been a struggle. It's
Wow.
been a struggle. Then again, we don't use the mechanisms of manipulation. So just making giving a relational thing, you know, that's a transition for a lot of people that's been in church most of their lives, taking the legalistic tendency away from it. You know, the manipulation, the mechanisms that we use to increase giving. I don't use any of those.
Wow.
You feel me? So I have to weigh that in as well. But finances has been a little interesting.
Is most of your friends also?
Oh yeah, that's what I've been hearing. Exactly.
Wow.
I think from like the last 2 years we saw an increase, like an incredible increase at our church. I was like, oh man, I'm about to get a bonus. Like this is I can ask for a bonus, right?
Yeah.
But now, like this last year, we've been seeing like the Sunday number. Our budget's like supposed to be around 53, 55. We're under that a lot, and you know we have big giving Sundays, but it's something going on even from volunteers financially. It's something going on within the Black mindset. You know, bigger than what people are just not feeling the same way they did about the church.
That's
Do
exactly
you guys
right.
sense a lot of anxiety out there?
From the members, yeah.
Yeah. And were they anxious? I really feel like we're in an anxious culture. I do. I could be off on that one. What are they anxious about?
Look at the political format.
Okay, let's talk about politics.
So like, do you have a leader that's going head to head with these real issues, or do you have a leader that's kind of joking about it, but then at the same time you're looking at yourself like, who's really hearing me though?
That's exactly.
My pastor's
right.
not. We know, most minorities feel like our leadership in the country is not. So I need to reserve I need to protect myself. So let me save one thing you can protect
Save
yourself.
money.
Save my money.
Yeah.
Just in case something go crazy.
Yeah.
I can save my money.
Wow. Can we talk about politics now? It
got
is
it.
about one of
I
those,
did.
it's let's put it out there.
Yeah.
What are your people saying, your friends saying, when it comes to the political picture that we see in 2019? About to go into another political season. In fact, we're already there. Some would say. Mack, start with you.
A lot of my friends still looking at the past. They still talk about Obama all the time. But when Donald Trump first became president, a lot of my friends talked about the issues, but now they're not really talking about it as much.
Are people
They kind of ignoring things right now, and they're putting it behind them. I feel like the more you talk about certain issues, the more you stress about things, and people are like stressed about so many different topics of their lives right now. So that one issue, like that one topic, people not hitting on no more because I haven't heard nobody speak about it in the last couple of weeks. So
especially I either have friends who are all out when it comes to politics, or like Mack was saying, they're kind of just, I don't know, they're worn out. I don't know if they're done with it, or they're kind of on the other side where they're just going, man, they don't want to talk about it anymore. How do you deal with that in church life, where people are coming to church with one or the other, and neither one of those is probably good?
Right.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to go beneath the surface. Let's not deal with the semantics. Let's not deal with the foolishness of these arguments that aren't really substantiated, right? That's mostly built on hype and fear mongering. Let's go to the deeper aspect of what it is to be a believer in this climate. And so as a result of that, today I made some posts concerning the fact that the division is not being caused by politics. Politics is the camouflage for the deeper issues.
That's right.
The hypocrisy of the American Christianity, the racism that we're just not really ready to confront on the levels that matter. These type of things. And so the politics becomes the camouflage that people don't have to deal with these things in their own individual lives or on a systemic level. So.
Kim, what are you seeing? We and I live in the Atlanta metropolitan area here. What are you seeing with the division going on when it comes to politics, and how are you navigating through it personally?
Oh goodness, it's everywhere. It's in our country. You cannot avoid it. But I go back to what the pastor is saying. Let's go to the real issue and go to the core, and not stay on the superficial and the periphery and all that. And let's get back to what we're called to do. And I really believe love is what's going to make the difference. We will be known as believers by our love. And if we will activate love daily, and get into those conversations with people that we know. See, I don't fight on social media. That's like a losing battle.
No one ever wins on social media.
It's a losing battle. But what I do is I do think we
I've
need to
tried.
speak. I know. But at the same time, we do have to speak to the issues and not be silent. So take your platform and your spheres of influences in those areas. Have the conversations around the dinner table, not just to come to fight over a political issue, but let me just get to know, how are you doing? Because then we can talk about those issues of division. We have friends that are on the other side of politics and all of that, and we are very close friends, but we love one another. We can have, you can have those conversations when love is there. The problem is we don't have love, we don't have trust, we don't have that. So fear is going to come in, like you said, individualism is going to come in. It's all about me and the anxiousness that we're seeing in society, but we're not going to avoid the politics and the division. That is, it's saturated in our society.
It's already here.
Exactly right.
I'm going to throw out 4 key issues, and we're going to play kind of like hot potato here. I want to get kind of grab either one of these, okay? Let's talk about abortion. Is the Black church still conservative on that topic, or have they gone moderate to liberal on it? Is that a fair assumption? Okay. Abortion, where do we stand on that one as a Black church?
I want to speak to it, and the reason I want to is because my husband and I volunteer at a crisis pregnancy center, and most of the constituencies, the people that are coming in, are African American. Our churches will say that we're conservative, but we are silent.
Yes.
We
Are we silent on that issue, Kim? You think so?
I say we're silent. We're silent when our bodies are not there to help, to be able to speak into these women's lives. When they come in and they're on the borderline of the decision they're going to make, they need to see someone like us to be able to speak, to say we care. Not only do we care, we're there to help you when that baby comes.
Yeah.
We're here to be on your side. You preach it up in the pulpit, and that's fine, and this is what the Bible says, and we believe it, and God is pro-life and the creator of life, but then I don't see you in my most crucial moments.
So we're silent when it comes to the outcome. Is that fair?
To the outcome, and just being there in those moments, in those places where they're going to be making decisions. These women are going to make decisions, and these men are going to be making decisions, and they need to have someone beside them. No, you are not alone.
So we're talking about in the church that we're pro-life, well, most of our churches anyway, I would say. But on the outcome side of it, we're being silent. Okay. All right, let's move on to prison reform. Where are we at with that one as a people? And we're not monolithic.
Yeah.
I know there are people all over.
These are the board here. I don't feel like we're hitting on any of these issues. Like, if we're looking at it truthfully, I'm just trying to focus on my congregation. It's like why is it that we're looking at right now that marijuana has become legal? Pretty much, it's making its trends down the states, right?
Yeah.
And yet we still seeing people in mostly African American men in for petty, drug offensive, and they not reversing those.
It's unique to me. I gotta say this, Trey. When I look at that issue alone of marijuana, how it seems to be okay for certain people to make money off of it. But still our jails are still filled with young African American men who went to jail, are in jail for this.
And I'll say this, if the issue is privatized prison, we know that. We know it. Now we figure out, the veil has been ripped off. Like, oh, that's what they're doing. That's why y'all want to put many, minorities in jail as possible. Okay, we got that part. And I think, Obama was making the right moves, and even Trump did some sign. Most people don't know he did some signings to keep trying to fix this up a little bit too. But I say, well, if we want to keep the model of privatized prison, education has to be at the front for it then. You're not going to sit, don't put, even when you put animals in cages, they act crazy. So what would you do to a person who has the ability to reason, feel, and stuff? So make them get educated. Every person who do a sentence, if they doing 4 years or more, that's a college degree, they should be able to learn something and these have a value. And I also believe this, if you do your time, and you some psych ward, somebody can sign off on you, then we should expunge that. You did your time. You paid your price. Why do we still? Now it stops you from getting a job.
Do you think the people in our community feel like if you paid your time, the record should be expunged?
I don't think I may be a little bit more radical with that idea.
So
forgiveness.
There's a lot of missing information. You can actually get your record expunged.
For misdemeanor stuff.
Even minor felonies, you can, you just have to go through the process.
Okay.
But most people don't even realize, because again, we're talking about a consciousness of hopelessness. So people don't even investigate it. You know what I mean? They don't.
I would say this by which state you're in.
Yeah,
like certain states.
This is true. I'm speaking for Georgia. Another thing, these things are so layered. Let's just say, for instance, that was 6 or 7 years ago, there was a big initiative. I'm talking about thousands of clergy went back to law school. You know, literally, along with continuing to pastor and lead groups, they went back to law school to get degrees so they can get involved in the system to make change. We should start seeing the reflection of that real soon. Another big initiative that the church has been doing that a lot of people still aren't familiar with is that according to the test scores of a third grader, we can determine
where they're going.
The likelihood of them ending up in prison. So now you got reading with first graders, reading with second graders, reading with third graders that's being driven by church organizations, you know, that's going into the educational environment and just spending time. So now you're doubling up because you're getting the mentoring, you're setting a different example. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So these things are going to have impact in years to come, you know.
Trying to put you on the spot here. When it comes to LGBTQIA issues, where do your students stand?
Oh, so it's two places I stand. Is I have what my church says, and you know we go with the traditional church message. And I got like the person who mentored me to come into the gospel, he later came out and said I'm gay. And that put me in a real interesting position because if he never speaks into my life and disciples me, a preacher was the last thing on my mind. So he disciples me, helps me get my preaching format, mentors me. I call him about all things youth ministry and my issues, and prays with me. And he comes out and says he's gay, and I'm like, oh snap. So I don't feel anything. Like it wasn't like, it was like, okay, and it was just like my moment was, okay, that's cool. So I'm having this problem with my youth, and I'm trying to figure. I know you have the answer.
Wow.
I tend to look at it like this. The general concept is we have an issue. I wouldn't call it an issue. I would call it an opportunity. We have the opportunity within the church walls to say, okay, yeah, sexual orientation is not the final thing about a person. It's probably one of the least things you see. What are you going through? Let's start tearing down the person you are. And I say tearing down loosely by saying, let's get to the root of who you are. And then when you get to the heart of the person, the Bible says it, you get to the heart of a person, you'll find their treasure, right? So let's get to their heart. And then when you see it get to their heart, then they may say, you know what? It was something else here, spiritual, because we're not wrestling with flesh and blood, right? So let's get to the person, bump all the other stuff. I don't care what you think you are. I care about who you want to become.